Hi, Liam Ward at LearnTheHarmonica.com with a new series of interviews with top harmonica players and teachers. And what better way to start than with someone who is both of those things, founder of BluesHarmonica.com and also founder of the School of the Blues in San Jose, California, the world's most widely published harmonica instructor and a fantastic player in his own right, David Barrett. What for you makes a great improviser?
Oh, that's a big question. Probably the best way to approach it is the way that I would teach students. But maybe let me answer your question. What makes a great improviser? If we're talking about in an idiom, so my idiom is traditional blues harmonica, early 1950s. It's someone who has mastered the tradition of that idiom. There's a language that is in that idiom, that those licks are idiomatic of that style of music. So when I'm hearing someone use phrasing in a way that is relative to Big Walter Horton and Little Walter and all the people we've decided as a group that are masters of this style, that's very important. So first it starts with imitation, because you couldn't imagine it sounding any better than what those guys did anyways, right? So our early players on the bandstand are just copying, and that's their highest probability of sounding great anyways. If you can copy a great improviser and your technique and your sound is good enough to present it, then you're going to sound great, as long as you can remember it, right? That's the one challenge. Then at a certain time, you start to become comfortable allowing yourself to play fills and turnarounds and maybe 5-for-1s. And little by little, you start to tell yourself, hey, it's not bad. And you allow yourself to be more creative. Eventually, instead of learning a whole instrumental, like Off the Wall, for example, and playing it note for note, you're playing the head of the first 12 bars. And then maybe having some licks in there that are some key licks in the song to pay homage to that song. Then eventually just learning the head and then improvising everything. Not only is it less work because you're not having to memorize everything and you don't have the stress the night before of you presenting this song accurately, especially if you're a student doing a student concert or something like that. And this is the one song you get to play. But so it starts with someone who's mastered the language of that style first. Then from that language, moving past that and adding their own personality. For those of you who are worried about studying other players and losing your own personality, don't worry about that, because if you study a large enough breadth of players, and you're going to have influences outside of the idiom too, and that's of course okay. That's what gave us Little Walter. If Little Walter wasn't listening to the jump and swing blues that was around him and before him on recording, woodshedding those great saxophone licks, for example, we wouldn't have the jump and swing blues harmonica sound that dominates our style, has been dominating our style since the late 1960s, but very much what we think is the West Coast blues harmonica sound of Rod Piazza, William Clark, and Kim Wilson, Rick Estrin, Mark Hummel, and the list goes on, right? But they take it to their own next step from a personality standpoint, but also staying inside the genre. There's only so far you can go before you're something else, which is completely okay on a creative standpoint. But being that I love blues harmonica, I want to hear someone who's playing with that idiom, who stretches it a little bit. And I especially like players who take the time to really get to know the other positions, explore them to their nth degree, and things like your 5-4-1 licks, instead of just going, that's a great lick, but are really playing some substantive stuff on bars 9, 10, 11 in that 5-4-1 transition. Then it's to go past the technique, it becomes emotion. And the big thing, especially for your advanced students, your boarding on professional students, is dynamics. The ability to play soft and loud, and the tremolos and the vibratos. It's now not necessarily what you're playing, but it's how you're presenting what you're playing that makes it emotional. What's interesting in those techniques, like dynamics, technically is just volume for the most part. It's also tonal, but volume, there's not much technique really in that, but it's an extremely challenging thing. It takes a lot of time to develop that. From a student standpoint, I will show them how you can take one lick and play it in 5 different ways over the 12-bar blues progression. AAA, AA with fills, AAB, AAB with fills, ABAC. And AAA, for example, is playing one lick over 4 bars, repeating it. So when you're hearing a little Walter go, that's A. You repeated. There's the third one. Then he moves on to the next chorus, and he has a new theme, a new A for that chorus. So I just played the same lick 3 times over the 12-bar blues. Sounded great. So the idea that a student knows that it's approachable and not just this ethereal, gelatinous thing that's floating out there, that what is it to create a great solo? Because it's like giving someone a big wall and say, okay, paint a masterpiece. Let's see that, mural with all the details that the great masters would use. You can't do that. You got to say, okay, if you know one lick, you play it 3 times. That's one way you can do it. You know 2 licks, play that lick twice, and then change. So when that next line comes, and that's the B, A, A, B. So that's very important because it's an approachable way to look at how improvising works. And it's also very important for the advanced player because if you say lick after lick after lick after lick after lick, you're saying something, but you're not giving them something. As a listener, we want more repetition than the artist is usually willing to give. When you play a lick, it doesn't mean anything to them yet because you haven't told them it means anything yet. We only have one tool in music to tell them that something's important, repetition. So if I don't repeat anything, I'm telling them that nothing I'm playing is worth remembering. If I'm not playing something that's worth remembering, I'm playing something that's forgettable. Who wants to play music that's forgettable? So I might play a little fill then. And when I come back, you're a little familiar with it. So maybe your body starts to move. You probably couldn't hum it with me as of yet, but you're familiar with it. Now you expect, because I set you up for that, but if I change it, now the listeners, oh, that's kind of cool how he went down there and did that. So now we have surprise. Now they're thinking anticipation, or what happens next is anticipation. No, he repeated that lick. I wonder if he's going to play it again. And they get that satisfaction of, oh, I figured it out. I thought he was going to go there, and he did. And then they also think, well, he changed last time. I wonder what he's going to change to. So it's that combination of giving them enough that they can grab onto, that they're part of that conversation, but changing it enough so that they're both surprised, and the best improvisers are going to give them some anticipation, and there's going to be this nice play with what you give them and what they don't get, or they don't receive. And that's why, for example, Walter's one of the players that we commonly hear talked about, because he was such a master of what it is that he could change it to surprise the listener. We'd expect that 2 draw again on my harmonica. We'll just simply go to 1 draw. You expect it to go there. We expect that. And he starts building and moving somewhere else. There's a lot of great examples that we could sit down over a beer and show you some transcriptions. Check this out. Look what he did right there. But anyways, the masterful players are going to play with you a little bit, but give you enough so that they can take you along for the ride.